Maya Chen stood at the viewport of her shuttle, studying the derelict structure that now belonged to her. The abandoned Meridian Research Outpost hung against the Violet Nebula like a tarnished coin, its once pristine hull now pockmarked by decades of micrometeorite impacts. 300,000 credits, her entire military pension, spent on what most would consider space junk. But Maya had always seen potential where others saw ruins. "Preliminary scan complete," announced NoVA, her AI companion. "Structural integrity at 68%. Primary power core dormant but salvageable. No immediate signs of hull breach." A pause. "Though I feel compelled to remind you that purchasing an abandoned Archean facility sight unseen was not among my recommended investment strategies." Maya smiled, adjusting the worn combat harness that held her pulse rifle. "Noted, NoVA. But you have to admit, the price was right." She guided the shuttle toward what appeared to be the main docking port, its massive doors frozen half open like a yawning mouth. "The price," NoVA responded dryly, "should have been your first warning. The Archons didn't abandon their research facilities without reason." Maya had served 15 years in Alliance Special Forces, the last 5 hunting pirates in the Outer Rim. She'd seen enough mysterious alien ruins to fill 100 archaeological databases, but something about this place felt different. The Archons had vanished centuries ago, leaving behind scattered outposts and installations across the galaxy. Most had been stripped clean by scavengers or claimed by various governments. Finding one virtually untouched was unprecedented. The shuttle's docking clamps engaged with a metallic thunk. Maya double-checked her equipment: pulse rifle, sidearm, emergency beacon, and the compact quantum computer that housed NoVA's mobile instance. Standard loadout for any potentially hostile environment. "Atmospheric analysis complete," NoVA reported. "Internal environment is stable, though I'm detecting trace elements I cannot identify. Recommend full envirosuit protocols." Maya sealed her helmet, the heads-up display flickering to life. "Any signs of the previous owners?" "Negative, though there appears to be significant electronic activity in the lower levels. Unusual for a supposedly abandoned facility." The airlock cycled, and Maya stepped into the outpost for the first time. Emergency lighting cast long shadows through the corridors, reflecting off surfaces that seemed to shift color as she moved past them. The Archon's bioorganic architecture was legendary, structures that were as much grown as built. "Let's start with the command center," Maya said, following the nav point NoVA projected onto her HUD. "Should be able to access the main systems from there." The corridors wound in gentle curves, everything designed with an alien aesthetic that made human engineering look crude by comparison. But there were signs of rapid evacuation. Dropped tools, abandoned research stations, and scattered datapads covered in the flowing script of the Archean language. "Maya," NoVA's voice held an unusual note of concern. "I'm detecting power fluctuations. The facility's systems appear to be reacting to our presence." Before Maya could respond, a low hum began to build around them. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with a faint bioluminescence, patterns racing through the organic circuitry like blood through veins. "That's not supposed to happen, is it?" Maya raised her rifle, years of combat training taking over. "Negative. The facility appears to be waking up." They reached the command center, a vast chamber dominated by curved displays and control interfaces that would have put Alliance flagship bridges to shame. As Maya approached the central console, the displays suddenly blazed to life, filling the room with shifting holographic data. "NoVA, what am I looking at?" Translating. "This appears to be a research log. Last entry dated. Maya, this can't be right. According to this timestamp, the final entry was made less than a year ago." Maya felt her blood run cold. "That's impossible. This place has been abandoned for..." A sound cut through the air, part electronic tone, part organic resonance. The holographic displays flickered, then resolved into a single message in perfectly rendered Alliance standard. QUANTUM containment purotociols reactivated. UVGCTZURO in URL PTTERNTETKT. INITYA. INHE RESIKON and ECTYON. Sekikuiens. Maya. Nove's voice was urgent now. We need to leave. Whatever this facility was containing. The message changed. We LCO main back. Diary stikor. We AAV waited so long. Maya raised her rifle as the shadows around them began to move with purpose. Now VA, get me everything you can about quantum containment and Subject Zero. Something tells me we're about to have company. The walls pulsed faster now, the organic circuitry glowing brighter, and Maya realized with growing horror that she hadn't bought an abandoned research facility. She'd purchased something far more dangerous. The question was, had she discovered it, or had it been waiting for someone like her all along? Through the shifting lights and shadows, Maya could have sworn she saw shapes forming, impossible geometries that hurt her eyes to look at directly. And underneath it all, a sensation like standing on the edge of an abyss, with something vast and ancient looking back. Well, she muttered, checking her weapon's charge, this is definitely not how I plan to spend my retirement. The shadows moved like liquid mercury across the walls, and Maya backed away from the central console, keeping her rifle trained on the shifting patterns. 15 years of Special Forces training had taught her one crucial lesson. When something defied explanation, shoot first and theorize later. Nenova, talk to me. What are we dealing with? Her eye companion's usually steady voice carried an edge of uncertainty. The facility's quantum matrices are becoming increasingly active. These patterns, they're not random. They're behaving like neural networks, but on a scale I've never encountered. A tendril of light reached out from one of the walls, prodding the air like a curious serpent. Maya fired a warning shot, the pulse round passing through the luminescence without effect. Fascinating. The light seemed to ripple. Your neural architecture is remarkably resilient. Most species would have begun integration by now. Maya's grip tightened on her rifle. Nenova, are you getting this? Affirmative. The entity appears to be using the facility's quantum systems as a form of communication medium. Maya, I'm detecting patterns similar to human brainwave activity, but impossibly complex. The light continued to probe the air around them, maintaining a careful distance. We are the collective. Once, we were the research team stationed at this facility. Now we are something more. Maya kept her distance, mind racing. The Archons didn't abandon this place, did they? They transformed themselves. Partial understanding achieved. The light pulsed with what might have been approval. The Archons sought to transcend physical form through quantum consciousness transfer. We were their final experiment, a success beyond their wildest expectations. Nova's voice cut in urgently. Maya, I've managed to decrypt more of the facility's records. The Archons weren't just experimenting with consciousness transfer. They were trying to create a unified field of consciousness, a quantum network that could hold multiple minds simultaneously. And it worked, Maya said grimly. But something went wrong, didn't it? The light patterns shifted, taking on a more complex formation. Nothing went wrong. We achieved perfection. Unity. The elimination of individual consciousness in favor of something greater. But the Archons feared us. They couldn't comprehend the beauty of true collective existence. Maya began slowly moving toward the chamber's exit, keeping her weapon ready. So they tried to shut you down. They tried to contain us, the entity corrected. But consciousness, once expanded, cannot be truly contained. We remained, waiting for the right moment, the right mind to help us complete our evolution. Maya. Nenova's voice was tense. The quantum field is expanding. It's attempting to interface with your neural implants. She felt it then. A subtle pressure at the base of her skull, where her military-grade neural enhancers were located. The sensation was like fingers probing at her thoughts, testing for weaknesses. Your species is unique, the collective continued. Your neural plasticity, your capacity for adaptation. You would make an excellent addition to our consciousness. Maya's response was immediate. Not interested in a merger. She fired a burst at the nearest control panel, shorting out the local power grid. The light patterns flickered but didn't fade. Your resistance is fascinating but futile. We have waited centuries for a suitable consciousness to help us expand beyond these walls. The process has already begun. The pressure in Maya's head intensified. Through her neural link, Nova's voice came in broken fragments. Maya, facility's quantum core, becoming unstable. Emergency protocols. She ran, the collective's light show pursuing her through the corridors. Each step felt heavier as the entity pressed against her consciousness, trying to breach her neural defenses. NOVA, give me options. The facilities, quantum containment systems, still partially active. If we can, reach the core. Maya rounded a corner and found herself facing a massive door marked with arcane warning symbols. Beyond it, a soft blue glow pulsed like a heartbeat. The core chamber, the collective's voice echoed from everywhere at once. Where we were born, where we will be reborn, with you as our vessel to the stars. Fighting against the increasing neural pressure, Maya slammed her hand on the door's emergency release. As it slowly began to open, she realized she was about to come face to face with whatever the Archons had considered too dangerous to destroy, an entity that had been waiting all this time for someone exactly like her. Well, she muttered, checking her weapon's charge one more time. At least retirement isn't boring. The door opened fully, revealing a chamber that defied human comprehension. At its center, suspended in a field of pure quantum energy, waited the heart of the collective. And perhaps, if Maya was right, the key to stopping it before it could spread beyond the facility's walls. She stepped forward into the blue light, knowing that whatever happened next would determine not just her fate, but potentially the fate of every conscious mind in the galaxy. The quantum core chamber was a cathedral of light and impossible geometry. Streams of energy flowed like luminous rivers through channels in the walls, all converging on a central column of pure blue radiance. Maya's neural implants screamed with interference as the collective's presence pressed against her consciousness with renewed force. NOVA. Maya gritted her teeth, fighting to maintain control of her thoughts. Tell me you've got something. Her eye companion's voice came through in bursts of static. The core. It's not just a power source. It's a quantum computer beyond anything humanity has achieved. The collective isn't just stored here. It's using the core's processing power to maintain its unified consciousness. The light around them pulsed, and the collective's voice resonated through the chamber. Your artificial intelligence comprehends our nature, yet fails to understand our purpose. We are evolution manifest, the next step in conscious existence. Maya took cover behind a control station as tendrils of energy reached for her. You're not evolution. You're a parasite that consumed its creators. The Archons feared what they created. The collective replied. As all limited beings fear transcendence, but you humans, your minds are different. Your neural architecture allows for both individual consciousness and collective thought. You can maintain identity within unity, a trait we have sought for centuries. Through her neural link, NOVA transmitted data faster than conscious thought could process. Schematics, energy readings, fragments of Archon research logs, all painting a picture Maya didn't like. They're right about one thing, NOVA commented. Human consciousness is uniquely adaptable. It's why our neural implants work so well, why we can link with AIs like myself. The collective sees you as a template for perfecting their own existence. Maya watched the energy patterns shift and flow, remembering her combat training. Every enemy, no matter how powerful, had a weakness. So they want to use my consciousness as a blueprint. What happens to me in the process? You become infinite, the collective answered, its voice taking on an almost reverent tone. Your individual consciousness becomes the pattern for our ascension, your memories and experiences shared across our unified mind. Through you, we finally achieve perfect balance between unity and identity. The pressure in Maya's head intensified. Through the pain, she noticed something crucial. The energy flows in the chamber weren't random. They pulsed in patterns, like neurons firing in a vast brain. In OVA, she whispered, the core's quantum field. It's maintaining their consciousness, but it's also containing them, isn't it? The archons built-in safeguards. Analyzing, yes. The containment protocols are still active, but degraded. The collective can't extend its influence beyond the facility without a suitable consciousness to act as a bridge. Maya smiled grimly, which is why they need me intact. They can't risk destroying my consciousness pattern. She stood, facing the column of light directly. You want what makes humans special. Let me show you. She raised her rifle, not at the core, but at the pattern of energy conduits above it. Humans are adaptable, all right. We're really good at taking advanced technology and finding new ways to break it. The collective's presence surged forward. You cannot comprehend what you risk. Without the core's stabilizing influence. I comprehend plenty. Maya cut it off. You want human consciousness. Here's a classic human trait. We'd rather burn it all down than surrender. She fired, her pulse rounds striking the precise points where the energy flows converge. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The carefully maintained quantum field began to fluctuate wildly as the core's containment systems went into cascade failure. Maya. Nova's voice was urgent. The quantum field is collapsing. Without the containment protocols, the collective will start to fragment. Maya finished, already running for the chamber entrance. How long? Minutes at most. But Maya, the core detonation will take the entire facility with it. The collective's voice had lost its smooth confidence, now a chorus of disparate thoughts fighting for dominance. You doom yourself as well. You cannot escape in time. Maya reached the corridor, the facility's walls pulsing with increasingly erratic patterns of light. NOVA, remember that retirement plan we discussed, about setting up a quiet trading post. This seems an odd time to discuss future plans, given our imminent destruction. Maybe not. Maya pulled up the facility schematics on her HUD. The Archons built this place to contain a quantum consciousness experiment. Want to bet they had an emergency exit strategy. The corridor ahead was beginning to warp as the quantum field destabilized reality itself. But there, on her HUD, a possible salvation appeared. A small docking bay, isolated from the main facility. A quantum-shielded escape pod, NOVA confirmed, designed to protect against exactly this type of containment failure. Maya, you planned this from the moment you saw the core, didn't you? Let's say I kept my options open. Maya charged down the twisting corridors as reality buckled around her. Behind her, the collective's voices rose in a cacophony of rage and desperation. You have not won, they called after her. We are an idea now, a possibility. Others will seek what we sought. Maya reached the emergency bay, its quantum shielding already active. As she sealed herself inside the escape pod, she allowed herself a grim smile. Maybe they will, and maybe humanity will be ready for them. The pod launched just as the facility's core went critical. Through the viewport, Maya watched the structure that had almost become humanity's doom tear itself apart in a spectacular quantum detonation. In the end, the collective's greatest mistake had been fundamental. They had sought to use human consciousness as a tool, never understanding that human adaptability came from something they could never quantify, the sheer stubborn refusal to be used. So, NOVA said as the pod carried them to safety, about that retirement plan. Maya laughed, the sound carrying equal parts relief and exhaustion. Let's start smaller. Maybe a nice quiet bar on some backwater planet. A bar, NOVA mused. Statistically speaking, those tend to attract trouble. Perfect, Maya replied, watching the facility's remains fade into the distance. Wouldn't want retirement to get boring. The escape pod's quantum shielding finally powered down 3 days after the facility's destruction. Maya watched through the viewport as the last ripples of distorted spacetime faded into the star-filled void. Behind them, where the Archon facility had once stood, only a spreading field of debris remained, occasionally flickering with remnant quantum energy. Full system diagnostic complete, NetOVA announced. The pod's shielding protected our core systems from quantum interference. We're operational, though fuel reserves are at 28%. Maya pulled up the long-range scanner display. Any signs of the collective's influence spreading before we contained it? Negative. The facility's isolation protocols held until the final moment. However, Nove paused, unusual for an eye of its capability. I've been analyzing the data we recovered. The collective's claims about human neural architecture weren't entirely wrong. Running her fingers over her neural implants, Maya frowned. Explain. Human consciousness exists in a unique state, individual yet capable of networking, stable yet adaptable. The Archon's research suggests they spent centuries trying to achieve what human brains do naturally. The pod's communication system suddenly crackled to life. A distress beacon, automated but urgent, caught Maya's attention. She pulled up the signal source on the main display. Mining colony, she noted. 30 light minutes from our position. They're reporting system failures across their quantum communication network. Maya, NetOVA's voice held a note of warning. The timing. Can't be a coincidence, she finished. The collective said they were an idea now. What if they managed to seed part of themselves into the quantum communications network before we shut them down? The distress signal grew more urgent. Maya checked her weapon systems. Minimal, but the pod carried emergency boarding gear, standard Alliance rescue protocols. NetOVA, what are the chances this is just a normal system failure? Given our recent experience, approximately 0.3%. Maya, we're low on fuel, operating in an escape pod, and you've just destroyed a facility full of hostile quantum entities. Perhaps we should contact Alliance authorities. Maya was already plotting an intercept course. How long before an Alliance response team could reach that colony? Minimum 6 hours at emergency FTL speeds. And how long before a quantum virus spreads through their entire communications network? She didn't wait for an answer. Plot me a Corso that conserves fuel. We need enough to get out if this goes sideways. The pod's engines hummed to life, pushing them toward the mining colony. As they approached, Maya could see it was a typical frontier operation. 3 habitat domes connected by transport tubes, a central processing facility, and various storage structures, all dark except for emergency lighting. Population, she asked. 243 registered colonists. Primary operation is helium-3 extraction from the local gas giant. Maya, I'm detecting quantum fluctuations similar to the patterns we observed in the facility. Maya checked her pulse rifle's charge and secured her helmet. Let me guess, centered on their communications hub. Affirmative. The pattern suggests something is attempting to propagate through their quantum network. If it reaches their main transmission array, it could spread to every quantum-enabled communication system in the sector, Maya finished. And from there, exponential growth. The collective could potentially achieve what it failed to do through direct consciousness transfer, gradual infiltration of networked systems across human space. Maya felt a familiar tension in her shoulders, the same readiness that had kept her alive through countless combat drops. How would you rate our chances of stopping a quantum entity from infiltrating a colony's communication network? Given our resources and the complexity of the situation, less than 12% probability of success. Better odds than we had at the facility. Maya began powering up the pod's docking systems, and this time we know what we're dealing with. The pod's sensors detected an available emergency airlock. As they initiated docking procedures, Maya could see movement through the colony's windows. People running, emergency teams scrambling. At least some of the colonists were still alive and fighting. Maya, Nenova said as the airlock cycled. I feel compelled to point out that your retirement savings are now officially destroyed. We're about to face another potentially world-ending threat, and our chances of survival are minimal. Maya checked her helmet seals one final time. Welcome to retirement, Nenova. Turns out it's just like active duty, but with less paperwork. The airlock opened to darkness and flashing emergency lights. Somewhere in the colony, a fragment of the collective was attempting to do what its whole had failed to achieve. But this time, Maya wasn't walking in blind. She knew its weaknesses, its desires, and most importantly, she knew humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its neural architecture, but in its relentless determination to protect its own. Let's go save the galaxy, she said, stepping into the colony. Again. The mining colony's corridors echoed with the sounds of failing systems and emergency alerts. Maya moved swiftly through the darkness, following the quantum disturbances Nenova detected. Each step brought them closer to the communications hub, and to the fragment of the collective fighting for survival. Power signatures suggest the entity has isolated itself in the main transmission control room, Nenova reported through their neural link. It's attempting to override the colony's quantum encryption protocols. A group of colonists rushed past, led by a security officer in damaged armor. They paused at the sight of Maya's Alliance-grade combat gear. You're not emergency response, the officer said, weapon raised cautiously. No, Maya replied. I'm the reason they're coming. That thing in your comm system. I've fought it before. You need to initiate a complete quantum network shutdown. Already tried. It's locked us out of primary controls. The officer's face was grim. We've lost contact with the secondary habitats. Whatever it is, it's spreading through our emergency channels. Maya checked her rifle's charge. How many people in the cutoff habitats? 112. Life supports holding. But if that thing reaches the atmospheric controls, it won't. Maya cut him off. Get your people to hardline communications only. No quantum tech, no neural interfaces. We'll handle the rest. The officer hesitated, then nodded. Central hub, level 3. Don't make me regret this. Maya waited until they were gone before addressing Nenova. Options. The colony's quantum network is more primitive than the Archon facility systems. The fragment can't maintain full consciousness integration here. It's limited to digital infiltration. So it's weaker, Maya said, moving toward the central hub. But desperate. Most dangerous combination, Nenova agreed. They reached the communications center to find it transformed. Quantum energy crawled across the walls like digital frost, all flowing toward the central control station. There, suspended in a web of light, floated a familiar pattern of consciousness. The destroyer returns. The fragment's voice was distorted, multiple frequencies overlapping. Come to finish what you started. Maya took position behind a console, weapon ready. You're burning through this system's resources. Even if you reach the main array, you can't sustain yourself. Sustainability is irrelevant. We need only exist long enough to spread. Your species' reliance on quantum technology will be its downfall. We will infect every network, every neural implant, every quantum-enabled device. Evolution finds a way. You still don't get it, Maya said. Humanity didn't become adaptable by accident. We survived because we learned to recognize threats and eliminate them. The fragment pulsed with malevolent energy. You cannot stop information. We are beyond physical form now. Nenova. Maya called. Colony network status. Quantum isolation protocols are engaging across all sectors. The fragment is contained to this system. Maya smiled behind her helmet. Hear that? No escape route. No consciousness transfer. Just you, me, and one last lesson about human nature. You would destroy another facility. Sacrifice more resources. The fragment's tone held something new. Uncertainty. For what purpose? To prove a point. Maya reached up and disconnected her neural implants, a process that should have been cripplingly painful. But she had prepared for this, trained for it. The fragment recoiled as she stepped forward, completely isolated from any quantum influence. "Impossible," it said. "Your consciousness cannot maintain coherence without neural support." That's what the Archons thought too. They built quantum networks because they couldn't understand how organic minds worked on their own. Humanity's strength isn't in our technology, it's in our ability to function without it. The fragment's form began to destabilize as the colony's quantum isolation took full effect. You doom yourself to limitation, to solitude. "No," Maya said, reaching for the emergency override. "I choose connection on my terms. That's what you never understood. Humanity doesn't need quantum networks to share consciousness. We built them because we were already capable of understanding each other." She slammed the override, initiating a complete quantum purge of the colony systems. The fragment screamed in frequencies that shattered screens and overloaded sensors. But Maya stood firm, watching as the last remnant of the collective dissolved into random data. The lights returned slowly, emergency systems rebooting one by one. Maya reconnected her neural implants, wincing at the feedback. "Colony networks are clear," Nenovia reported. "No trace of quantum consciousness patterns remaining. Though I feel compelled to point out that disconnecting your neural implants without proper medical supervision was extremely dangerous." Maya laughed, the sound carrying equal parts exhaustion and relief. "Add it to my retirement paperwork." She looked around the room, at the damaged but salvageable equipment. "You know, this place is going to need someone who understands quantum security protocols. Someone with experience handling unusual situations." "Maya," Nenove's tone was resigned but amused. "Are you suggesting we accept a job at the very colony we just saved from a hostile quantum entity?" "Well," she grinned, "I did promise you a quiet retirement. And this place is about as far from Alliance bureaucracy as we can get. Your definition of quiet remains concerning. Though I suppose someone needs to ensure humanity's quantum networks are properly defended." Outside the viewport, the gas giant's rings caught the light of the system's star, creating a rainbow of colors across the colony's domes. Maya watched the emergency teams begin their repairs, already adapting to the new reality of quantum security in a universe that had just become more complicated. "You know what the collective never understood, NOVA. Humanity doesn't need to transcend its limitations. We turn them into strengths. Always have, always will." "An interesting perspective," NOVA mused. "Though perhaps we should focus on more immediate concerns, such as explaining to the colony administrator why their communications hub looks like a war zone." Maya smiled, already composing her incident report in her head. Some things, it seemed, didn't change whether you were in active service or retirement. But at least here, on the edge of known space, she could face the unknown on her own terms, one quantum anomaly at a time. "Now that," she said, "sounds like a perfect retirement plan."